Yeyam prete vichikitsa manushye astiti eke na ayam astiti cha eke. Etad vidyam anushishtas tvaya aham varanamesha varaha tritiyaha. So this is the third vara I want. What is that? Yeyam prete vichikitsa. When prete, when I leave this body, when somebody leaves this body, vichikitsa, there is a doubt in manushas. Manushas there means mananashilas, the ones that think. And they ask, asti iti eke. One group of people think that there is asti. Asti means this jiva is there. And inside him is this Paramatma and he is there. Is one view. Asti iti eke. Na ayam asti iti cha eke. So easy to read those verses. And there is another group that thinks it is nothing. Once the body is gone, you are gone. There is no soul. There is no Paramatma, nothing. It is just a material concoction that we have made up. It is all one big lie. There is nothing called soul. There is nothing called Paramatma and so on. That is the other group. And we all know that is the atheist group. And this is the theistic group. So Nachiketa is asking, I'd asked that question on our behalf as to when this body withers away, when this body falls down, is there anything left or not? Okay, this is an important question for us. Yeah, there are billions of people on the planet who go about their life not even thinking about this problem. Okay? When I am gone, when this body falls down, and when it is burnt or buried or given to the birds, is anything of me left or not? Or have I just dissolved and gone? Okay. This is a fundamental philosophical question, right? And that is the question that Nachiketa asked in the first volume. So our Guru Yama, having gone through all this over the last several months with us, he then puts in an amazing verse here to also, bring home this truth. I've told you all this, Vamana, Madhyam, Asinam, and so on. Why am I telling all this, Nachiketa? Because Asya Vishram Samanasya Sharirastasya Dehinaha Dehad Vimuchyamanasya Kimmatra Parishishyate Etad Vaitat. Okay, so to understand the beauty of this verse, we need to go to the basics. We need to understand what is Shareera, what is Deha. They all appear to be the same, isn't it? But are they different? Shareera means this body. Deha means this body. And what has Yama done here? He has used very clever words here. He has put Shareera, Dehinaha, Dehat. They're all similar to be very repetitive. Okay? No, it is not repetitive. Our Upanishad is a great scripture. It is full of knowledge. It is only our mistake if we look at these words and say they talk about the same thing. Absolutely not. Yama is giving us some profound truths here. And what is that profound truth? And this is a busy slide. And I want to spend the rest of the talk, hopefully, talking to you about this. Because last week, Devalji was mentioning about how do we link Panchakoshas, Dehas, and the Brahmanda and Pindanda. And we had some discussions in the Q&A session about this. Padmaja ji also was inquiring about this. How do we link all this? Thankfully for us, Yama has actually brought this in this particular verse, allowing us to make this discussion. Okay, so let me take through this slide and I hope it will make sense. Okay, so to understand this verse that Yama has put, we need to go all the way to pre-creation. We need to go to that phase of our journey as souls where the universe has not come into being. Okay, the Jivas are in the womb of the Brahman in a suspended animation state. The gross material world is in a suspended animation state, equipoise of Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas, what we call as Mula Prakriti. And it is there in the womb of the Supreme. So think about the situation of you as Jiva. Okay. So here is the profound truth of Vedic philosophy, and which is that there was never a point in the career of souls, the souls did not have a linga shareera. Okay. They were always had the linga shareera, which is a very, very subtle covering made of matter that covers the soul. The subtle matter that covers the soul. So go with me with this, because I'm going to link everything in a few minutes. Okay. For those who are impatient, please bear with me. So because I'm going to explain all this. So you have the soul in pre-creation who always have linga shareera. Linga shareera is where you have the karmic imprints. Linga shareera is where you have the ignorance that we have discussed about. And linga shareera is where you have the deep memory of all the lives that you have had. You might have been in you are in the pralaya state, but the pralaya and srishti is an eternal cycle, right? So it is very likely that in those infinite eternal cycles, at some point, we might have come back into the universal existence. Okay? And then we would have made some experiences, and those experiences would have gone into deep memory, which is again there in the linga shareera. So this jiva always has this. There is never a point where the jiva did not have it. So that is a philosophical position, and you need to think about it. Okay. So once creation happens, okay, i.e. the material world has come into being, and we have been through all this 9 stages of creation in Bhagavatam, and we go back to those slides. But essentially what happens is, when the jivas come into creation, they acquire additional sheets. That is what we call as the creation of jivas. Okay? Creation for jiva is they acquire a material body. What is that material body? They have always had a material body, which is a very subtle body called the linga shareera. But when they come into creation, they acquire other bodies. So instructs our Vedic scripture and Vedic philosophy. There's something called the sukshma shareera, and then there is something called the sthoola shareera. It is the sthoola shareera that is me and you, and we are all sitting here doing the satsang because we all have our sthoola shareera. And inside our sthoola shareera is the sukshma shareera. Inside the sukshma shareera is the linga shareera, and inside the linga shareera is the jiva swarupa. Okay, so that is the anatomy of us as beings. We actually have 4 bodies, 3 coverings: sthoola shareera, sukshma shareera, linga shareera, jiva swarupa. Okay? These are basic ideas that we need to keep thinking about. So this is what is going on when we are in samsara. What is samsara? Coming into contact with gross matter and experiencing the external world. So that is the creation for us. Okay? So that creation essentially means we've got a sukshma shareera and we got a sthoola shareera. So if you look at it in a different way, this is gross, this is subtle, this is the subtlest. Okay, so that is the 3 grades of material covering that you have. Okay, but at the same time, we also talk about panchakoshas. Yeah, jivas have panchakoshas. So let us go through what is the panchakosha here. So the panchakosha is what? You have annamaya kosha, pranamaya kosha, manonmaya kosha, vijnanamaya kosha, and anandamaya kosha. So this is also described in our shastras that the jivas have 5 koshas. Now I've said they got 3 coverings, material coverings, but I'm also saying that they got 5 koshas. So then the question will be, are different Upanishads talking about different things, or they are talking about the same thing? And let me tell you, there is one sutra called Gati Samanyat by Vedavyasa in the first adhyaya. Gati Samanyat means everywhere in the Vedas, they talk about the same thing. We may not be able to understand it, but they talk the same thing, and we need to approach the Vedas with gurus who can actually direct us as to how we do that samanvaya so that they're talking the same thing. So let me actually apply this here. Okay, so annamaya kosha, anna means what? Made of solid and liquid. Okay, so that aspect of the material world that forms the gross body is actually made of Aap and Prithvi, or Aap and Annam as it's called. So these 2 together form the Annamaya Kosha. So when you look at the 3 layers of the body of the Jiva, this becomes the Sthoola Shareera. Okay, the Sthoola Shareera that I talk about is the Annamaya Kosha, which is made up of Prithvi and Aap. So then I have the sukshma shareera. So the sukshma shareera, what does that correspond to? So we have now understood what annamaya kosha is. Now we have pranamaya kosha, manonmaya kosha, and vijnanamaya kosha. These three form the sukshma shareera. Okay. Prana, manas, and buddhi. And manas, of course, has got various components, and then you have memory. So these go into the sukshma shareera. Whereas there is this another kosha of the jiva which is always with us. It's called the anandamaya kosha, which is called chetana. Okay? That forms the linga shareera or karana shareera of jivas. Okay, so think about this slide. Come back to this slide and have a rumination on this, because in the right hand side here, I've then put how does that link with Brahmanda. Okay, and this is where the beauty of Vedic philosophy is. It's completely in sync with whatever it says. So in Brahmanda, what is happening? You have this Mula Prakriti, which is the subtlest of matter. The subtlest of matter is the linga shareera. Okay, and then what happens is this mula, the subtlest of matter, then as we know, it becomes sattva, rajas, tamas, and then that becomes mahat tattva. Okay, and the mahat, as we know, becomes ahankara. Ahankara then becomes vaikarika, tejasa, and tamasa. One aspect of tamasa becomes tanmatra, and the tanmatras become bhutas. And the bhutas are what? Akasha, vayu, tejas, ap, and prithvi. Okay, so no surprises there. This Aap and Prithvi of the Panchabhutas is the Aap and Prithvi of your body. And again, it's logical, because we eat rice, we drink water. What is that? That is the Panchabhuta. And what we eat and what we drink actually becomes the gross body. So that is Aap and Prithvi, which is the sthoola shareera. Okay. Whereas sukshma shareera has got various components, right? You have pranamaya kosha, manonmaya kosha, and vijnanamaya kosha. So let's look at pranamaya kosha. Vayu, tejas, and akasha forms the pranamaya kosha. Why? Because you need space, you need air for the metabolism to happen. And when metabolism is happen, heat is generated, which is what we have been doing all along in this particular section. So akasha and vayu, tejas forms one component of sukshma shareera, which is the pranamaya kosha. Okay. So then you have this whole ideas of your mind. Mind has got 5 components, right? Manas, buddhi, ahankara. Yeah, 3. Let us take the 3 components here. So ahankara. How does this indriyas come in? What are the various components of the manas? How do the manas come from? Manas come from Vaikarika evolute of Ahankara Tattva, which is the evolute of Mahat Tattva, which is these are all subtle matters. So that Manas becomes another component of Sukshma Shareera. Okay. Manas becomes the component of Manonmaya Kosha. Then you have this Buddhi, or where the intellect is, where the memory shell is. Okay. And where is all this memory shell? Mahat Tattva. So the Buddhi component has actually got 2 aspects to it. There is one aspect of Vaikarika and the Mahat Tattva, which is another subtle matter where the memory shell is. Okay, so that forms another component of the Sukshma Shareera. So Pranamaya Kosha, Manonmaya Kosha, and Vijnanamaya Kosha together form the Sukshma Shareera. Whereas the Anandamaya Kosha is the Linga Shareera or Karana Shareera, or it is called Linga Deha. Okay, you have to think about this and memorize this, because that is where this Linga Deha concept comes from, and that is where the Sthoola Shareera concept comes from. So in this slide, I hope I've been able to impress upon you that the consistency is 100% of bringing in Panchakoshas, Linga Shareera, Sukshma Shareera, and Sthoola Shareera, and the Brahmanda. And as Sudarshan was mentioning in the previous class, our body is just a component of the Brahmanda. We are stardust, as Carl Sagan mentioned once. We are stardust. So true from a Vedic perspective. We are stardust because whatever is there in Brahmanda is there in the Pindanda. Okay. HinduKnowledgeAcademy.com will celebrate Vedic culture
and present its philosophies to the modern Hindu in an accessible format. Our ancient heritage is our greatest strength. Through preservation and dissemination, together let us spread positivity in the world. Thank you for listening and welcome to Hindu Knowledge Academy.